Just want to say on this Canada Day that we want to remember the survivors of residential school and those kids that never got a chance to come home, and to their parents that waited forever for them. We just want to remember them.
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda McDougall, Mayor of the Cape Breton Regional Municipality here. I'm so grateful to be coming to you all from beautiful Unama'ki. Better together. That is the theme of the production today that we're sharing with you all, and I couldn't think of a more timely theme. We've had a really difficult 18 months. COVID has truly tested us all to what we thought were our limits. On top of that, we've seen racism rampant across our communities, and now, more recently, are feeling the effects of residential schools across each of our provinces and inside all of our communities. But I am hopeful. I'm hopeful because this provides a unique opportunity for us to do better. And the only way we can do better is if we are doing that together. I'm very grateful as well to the Government of Canada for allowing us this opportunity to reach all of you. And I'm so excited to see how much better we can all become together.
Hey Cape Bretoners, I'm Chelsea Carey, and I feel very lucky to have had the chance to participate in the Scotties Tournament of Hearts in 2019 in Cape Breton in Sydney. And I don't have enough good things to say about your community. You know, not only is it beautiful, but we felt so welcome, and all you guys, the people were just incredible, the volunteers and the fans, and we just all felt so welcome and like we were at home. And I can't tell you how much that means to us when we travel as much as we do. To go to a community that embraces us the way that Cape Breton did is incredible, and it's just really what we need. So I want to thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for making us feel that way the entire time we were at the Scotties. I want to send well wishes to everybody during this difficult time. I know it's been a really tough 2 years for all of us with being separated from family and friends and just everything that's going on. So I hope that everyone is staying healthy mentally and physically. And you know, coming up to July 1st here, let's just make our country a welcome home to everybody who calls it home, no matter where they come from or what their story is. To me, that's what I would strive to have being Canadian represent. So let's please do that, and all the best.
1, 2, 3. I'm Natalie MacMaster. Hello there from my home in Ontario. I'm from Troy, Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, and I now have a husband and 7 children. And I just want to talk to you all today for a little bit, play some music, and perhaps remember some memories of days gone by. We're trying to graciously come out of this pandemic. Hopefully it's coming to a close. It's been a tough year and a half for many people. Hopefully we've learned a lot. One little memory I thought I'd share with you was my trip that I'd make to the chestnut trees. Now, nobody knows this summertime memory, but me and usually my brothers would go to the chestnut trees, which were behind our property and kind of very far back. There was like this really bushy area you'd have to climb through, and you'd literally be pushing the bushes out of the way, and there'd be rocks underneath your feet, so it was kind of treacherous. That was the fun of it. And finally you'd reach a clearing and there'd be these chestnut trees, and so we'd climb them, and it was just really shady and really cool and like kind of a mysterious playground. And we used to collect the chestnuts for ammunition, and we'd biff them at one another. And I'd usually get nailed by my brothers, and I'd usually miss hitting them because I wasn't very good at those sorts of things, but I could play the fiddle. Anyway, and there was this one tree in particular. It was a cherry tree. One cherry tree, and it had a long branch, and I used to climb to the end and pretend like I was on an airplane. It was awesome. Of course, I'd never been on an airplane at that point, so I had no comparison. It was wonderful. Good memories. Anyway, I'm so longing to go back, and hopefully this pandemic has taught us that we need each other, and we give life to one another. We are ignited. We need people to spark us on, to create energy and emotion, and that's when we thrive as human beings, to be stimulated in those ways, you know, stimulate all the mind and the body and the soul, the spirit. And I also hope too, what we've learned from this pandemic is to appreciate each other more, and especially, you know, people speak so nicely through our computers, but hopefully when we go living again with each other, and that our actions speak louder than our words. I hope for a more caring society, and I have much hope in all that this pandemic might incline us to be. And I hope to see you all again soon. I can't wait to go home to Cape Breton and hug my mom and dad tight. God bless you all. Bye-bye. Oh yeah. Here we go. Hands together. We're having a party. Woo!
I acknowledge our presence on the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq Nation. I am inspired by their resilience in the face of discrimination and the strength of their culture and spiritual beliefs, which has allowed them to endure so many challenges. I acknowledge my ancestors and other warriors for their faith in God and their fight for equality and justice for Black people. They never gave up hope. It is their determination and fighting spirit that gives me the strength and courage to climb and soar as they would want me to do. Welcome to this special evening marking Canada Day, July 1st, 2021. I am the Honorable Dr. Mayann Francis, former Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia. I want to thank Joe Costello, Recreation Program Coordinator with Cape Breton Regional Municipality, for inviting me to be part of the virtual program this evening. When I was asked by Mr. Costello to deliver a message for Canada Day, I was hesitant. There are many negative circumstances currently facing our country and specific communities and individuals because of their cultural background. I felt Canada Day 2021 would be difficult to celebrate. As a Black woman, born and raised in Sydney, Whitney, Pier, Cape Breton to immigrant parents, I am extremely sensitive to matters of systemic discrimination and racism in our country. I was very fortunate to have been born and raised in Whitney Pier, a place that was diverse and inclusive in culture and religion. But even though my journey in life has been very successful, I have experienced racism in Canada. Because of my strong belief and faith in God, I have the courage and determination to climb over the barriers of hate and racism in order to have a successful journey in life and to fulfill God's purpose. COVID-19 has raised many questions about systemic discrimination, equity, justice, gender inequality, violence, overt racism, the homeless, poverty, mental health, health care, our environment, and of course our economy. The murder of George Floyd by a police officer on May 25, 2020, brought attention to the impact of overt racism and systemic discrimination against not only African Americans, but also African Canadians and African peoples around the world. Finally, people realize that Black lives matter. I give thanks to God that justice was served on April the 20th, 2021, when George Floyd's murderer was found guilty. Systemic discrimination and racism is alive and well against Indigenous peoples too. In September 2020, because of racism, an Indigenous mother of 7 died in a Quebec hospital. In May 2021, the remains of 215 undocumented Indigenous children were found at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School in British Columbia. And in June 2021, more unmarked Indigenous graves were found in Saskatchewan at the site of former residential school. In June 2021, 5 members of a Muslim family, while taking a walk on Sunday evening in London, Ontario, when they were deliberately run over by a vehicle because they were Muslims. Mother, father, daughter, and grandmother were killed. The family's 9-year-old son survived. Systemic discrimination, overt racism, covert racism, unconscious bias, and microaggression are alive and well in this country. Racial profiling of African Canadians by police in Canada is one example of injustice against Black people. When I accepted the invitation to speak tonight, I decided to do so from my church, All Saints Cathedral here in Halifax. Thanks to the very Reverend Paul Smith, a strong believer in equity and justice, and rector of the cathedral, for assisting me this evening. My faith in God gives me courage and strength to continue forward with hope. Canada must face the reality that inequality, racism, and hate are unfortunately part of Canada's reality. For change to happen now, Canadians, as well as all leaders, must understand the negative impact of colonization and slavery on Indigenous people, Black Canadians, and people of color. As a Black woman of faith, with a strong belief in God, I often read prayers, poems, and articles written by religious and spiritual people. These readings give me feelings of love, compassion, forgiveness, and hope. Because I am here at the cathedral, I want to share some of my readings with you. It is my wish that these readings will inspire you and the leaders to listen, educate yourself, look deep within your heart and mind, understand the past, and move forward with honesty, love, compassion, acceptance, and respect for diversity and inclusivity, because now is the time for new beginnings. The first reading is a prayer that was adapted from Reverend Paul Jennings. God, in the beginning, you formed us from the same earth and breathed your spirit into us. You sent us forth, east and west and north and south, to people your world, to love and care for the land, to live in harmony with you, with one another, and with all your creatures. In our arrogance, we have turned away from you and turned against one another. We have forgotten that we were fashioned of the earth. We have exploited the earth and lorded over your creatures. We have forgotten that we are all your children. We have turned on one another with contempt and violence. Mary Oliver, the late Mary Oliver, who was a poet, watching a documentary about polar bears trying to survive on the melting ice floes, said this, that God had a plan, I do not doubt. But what if his plan was that we would do better? End of quote. Next quote is from an A. Philip Randall, an American politician who died in 1979. Equality is the heart and essence of democracy, freedom, and justice, equality of opportunity in industry, in labor unions, schools and colleges, government, politics, and before the law. There must be no dual standards of justice, no dual rights, privileges, duties, or responsibilities of citizenship. No dual forms of freedom. The next two quotes are from Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who is alive and well in South Africa. God's dream is that you and I and all of us will realize that we are family, that we are made for togetherness, for goodness, and for compassion. Forgiving and being reconciled to our enemies or our loved ones are not about pretending that things are other than they are. It is not about patting one another on the back and turning a blind eye to the wrong. True reconciliation exposes the awfulness, the abuse, the hurt, and the truth. It could even sometimes make things worse. It is a risky undertaking, but in the end, it is worthwhile, because in the end, only an honest confrontation with reality can bring real healing. Superficial reconciliation can bring only superficial healing. End of quotes by Desmond Tutu. The next couple of prayers are prayers from one of our books here at the cathedral. Almighty God, you have blessed us with our country, Canada. May we prove ourselves a people mindful of your generosity and glad to do your will. Bless our land with honest industry, truthful education, and an honorable way of life. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil course of action. Defend our liberties, and give those whom we have entrusted with the authority of government the spirit of wisdom, that there may be justice and peace in our land. In troubled times, do not let our trust in you fail. Lord, keep this nation under your care. Bless the leaders of our land, that we may be a people of peace among ourselves and our blessing to other nations of the earth. Help us elect trustworthy leaders, contribute to wise decisions for the general welfare, and thus serve you faithfully in our generation to the honor of your holy name, through Jesus Christ, our Lord. And I thank God, and I thank you, Jesus. Everyone is watching Canada closely. On this Canada Day, 2021, and beyond, it is my wish and my hope that there will be no denial of past history injustice and present day injustice. It is time for meaningful, positive change now.
Hey everybody, it's me, Frankie MacDonald. I wish everyone happy Canada Day, even everyone's apart, including social distancing and things like that. But social distancing can't last forever. That's why being apart, social distancing don't last forever. People will be back together again. They'll be returning, hugging and things like that once again. And people will be reunited with each other again. We'll get through. Once this is over, I'll be reunited to a lot of my fans once again. Once the pandemic is over, once social distancing gets lifted, I'll be reunited with a lot of people again. Stay safe, everyone, and stay cool. Be vigilant. I'm Frankie MacDonald.
I'll get you to say, hi, I'm Amy Gordon from Sydney Mines.
I am Amy Gordon from Sydney Mines. Right then.
Yeah.
Say best wishes
That's it.
for everyone
Everyone.
in Cape Breton.
Veteran. I'll see everybody soon.
Hey everybody, my name is Michael Forgeron. I grew up in Manitou. I went to Riverview and I got to compete at 2 Olympic Games. So for me, sport is about being able to compete on a level playing field. And when you get to race day, and before that, it's about putting everything you have and the time that you have into being the best possible version of your performing self that you can be when you get there. So the folks tell me I can tell a short story. So here goes. I'm 26 years old. I'm sitting on the starting line of an Olympic final in Barcelona, Spain. I am unbelievably nervous because I'm thinking of all the people at home that gave me the opportunity to this, and how they're all watching me and how they've been waiting all year for me to do this. I'm phenomenally well trained, but I'm a little anxious by nature. So this is all sort of kind of going on inside me. So we're sitting there, we're getting ready for the starting line, and it starts at 11 o'clock, and all of a sudden a bell from the village beside us rings. And it stops everything for 2 minutes. So I look around and I see the British are on my right, and I see guys twitching, and I go, they're fidgeting, they're nervous. And I look over, the Romanians are on my left, and same thing. And then I go, you know, okay, everybody here is nervous. And then all of a sudden I realize there's not pressure from the people at home in Cape Breton. They're watching me, and in Nova Scotia and in Canada. It's support, right? And I'm carrying, you know, kind of the strength of like 500 cultures that live in this land that stretches between 3 oceans and 5 Great Lakes and 5,000 miles from side to side. And anyway, that was a fabulous experience. I calmed down when I thought of that. And, you know, I'm not going to spoil it for you. You can watch the race on YouTube. But the strength of our land is in the diversity of its people. So go out, be active, support people that are trying to make a difference, and I look forward to seeing you really soon, double vaccinated. Bye, Cape Breton.
So 1993, I found out that my birth mother was from Inverness, Cape Breton. And so we were making a record here at the time, and I didn't want to be here. I just wanted to get in my car and drive out and see if I could find my mother. We finished the record, I drove out, and it was an amazing trip. And I didn't find her that trip, Mary Teresa McIntyre. But of the people that I met, phone calls were made, and eventually someone called my aunt, my dear Aunt Martha in Gander, and she said, "That sounds a lot like our Mary Teresa." And as I was leaving Cape Breton, I started singing this song as I was driving along in my car. I was born without a name on the cold green hills beyond Northumberland Strait. My great-great-grandfathers of Foot Cape, they're all dead or gone, moved away. And I'm another motherless son, chasing the stars through the sky, until I find my home to rest and finally say goodbye. you turn me away, my love? For too long I've been a-wandering. It's an ancient wind that blows me back across the streets of Northumberland. And I'm another motherless son, chasing the stars through the sky, until I find my home to rest and finally say goodbye. That's for the McIntyre's A Foot Cape. Truth and reconciliation are not words. They are actions. Sorry and apologies just don't cut it anymore. I cannot in good conscience say Happy Canada Day. Not until the Government of Canada and the Catholic Church release the records of the residential school system. So, of course, enjoy your day. Enjoy the love of your family and your community. But for me, I cannot celebrate Canada until the Indigenous voice is recognized and embraced by our governments, our policing, and our schools. Have a great day. Strange and beautiful are the stars tonight that dance around your head. And in your eyes I see that perfect world. I hope that doesn't sound too weird. I want all the world to know your love's all I need, all that I need. And if we're lost, then we are lost together. Yeah, and if we're lost, then we are lost together. Stand before this faceless crowd. I wonder why I bother. So much control by so few, stumbling from one disaster to another. And I've heard it all so many times before. It's all a dream to me now, a dream to me now. And if we're lost, then we are lost together. Yeah, and if we're lost, then in the silence of this whispered night, I listen only to your breath. In that second of a shooting star, somehow it all makes sense. And I want all the world to know that your love's all I need, all that I need. And if we're lost, then we are lost together. Yeah, and if we're lost, then we are lost together. Yeah, and if we're lost, then we are lost together. Yeah, and if we're lost, then we are lost together, together, together.
Cape Breton Regional Municipality. It's Ron MacLean at my home in Oakville, and lovely to speak to you today, July 1st, here on the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq and the homeland of not only of the great ancestors who cared for the land and by extension for us, but also the homeland of Mom and Dad. Mom is from Iona, and my father is from Point Coney, just outside Sydney Mines. Mom first. Her dad, everything that I usually do is with a bit of a wink. Mom's dad was John Dan MacDonald. And John Dan was a cut-up, and in grade 1, the teacher wanted to make an example of John Dan. So we called him to the front of the classroom, and he says, "John Dan, you're a clever young man. Let's say you reach into your left pocket and you pull out 3 quarters and a dime. And then you reach into your right pocket and you withdraw 4 nickels and 2 dimes. What have you got?" And without batting an eye, John Dan says, "Well, that's easy. Obviously, I have somebody else's pence." And the whole classroom broke up laughing, and yeah. Anyway, just to be serious for a half a second, not long. Anne Murray. Anne Murray's over Spring Hill Way on the mainland, as you know. That's the book from her museum, and I have all of the stories. All of Me is her biography or memoir. There's her brother, Bruce Murray, has written Poe, the story of Poe Beliveau, who was one of the great leaders of the Acadians. And it's really the story of the expulsion. The Acadians left from Port Royal. Port Royal was Annapolis Royal now. They were evicted, and they went to Boston, Massachusetts. And then the Belliveaus came back to Canada, some of them to Saskatchewan, some of them to Victoriaville, Quebec. That's where the great Jean Beliveau, captain of Montreal Canadiens, was born. And some of them to Nova Scotia, and blessedly they ended up in Spring Hill, Nova Scotia. Name changed to Murray eventually through marriage. But we got Bruce, a great singer-songwriter in his own right, who's gone now, God love him. But Bruce wrote that book, and his partner in music and his sibling from Spring Hill, and a legend in my mind. So I thought I would share 2 quick things. One, for July 1st, Paul Maurice, the Winnipeg Jets were the first to do land acknowledgements prior to their games. This is Paul talking about what it's like to be a coach in the NHL. What is the best thing about being a coach in the NHL?
That's a challenge. The bench part for me, the worst part of my day is about 2:30 in the afternoon. You're too far away from the game. You're not sure if you've done enough to win. And then the best part for me is just like 10 minutes before the game. Going through the national anthems. I love that. Like, that's one of the highlights for me of my job. Mm-hmm. And I take pictures in my head of my life, if that makes any sense. And I have a bunch of them, me standing on the bench during the national anthem. My first big one was in Montreal in the Forum in Montreal. It was the 4th game I ever coached, and looking at the Montreal players standing across the blue line and thinking, like, that looks like my living room when I was 5. You know, the cameras were so low there. Anyway.
I do know what you mean, Paul Maurice. That looks like our front room when we're 5. I hope so. Paul Maurice, and what that metaphor really says is our land is in a moment of opportunity. The game is next. The puck is about to be dropped, and he appreciates that, and he soaks it all in, as we should, on July the 1st, and with the Inuit and the Métis and our First Nations. And on that front, 1967, the year of Confederation, George Armstrong hoists the Stanley Cup for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a long memory ago. But here he is with his son, Brian. And I think, again, you know, he is Ojibwe and Anishinaabe. He led the Toronto Maple Leafs with the creative Indigenous way. They were called the Over the Hill Gang, but they had their elder, George Armstrong. Here's George and his son.
George Armstrong with his son, I believe that's Brian, comes along with him. You'll get his picture in the papers tomorrow, Bill. Clarence Campbell, president of the National Hockey League, presenting the Stanley Cup to Captain George Armstrong, who asked his son to help him hold it high. And George says, come on in here, fellas.
Isn't that a beautiful moment? Brian, and a moment to live forever. So, yeah, I'm a bit long-winded here. I just love to have Cape Breton as my roots, the roots of storytellers. More than that, I love to see these images that say it's nice to finish first, but family first, First Nations first. Much love.
Go. My name is Michael R Denny. I'm a Mi'kmaq from the Eskasoni First Nation here in Cape Breton Island. I'm a father. I'm a descendant of a residential school survivor. I love who I am. I love I love my culture. I love my language. I try to speak my language as much as I can when I can. And I'm also somebody who really, I'm proud of my heritage, and I'm proud of my culture. I started to notice, again, at a young age, I was lucky to be able to speak Mi'kmaq, and I'm a fluent speaker. And me and my brother, we noticed right away that all our friends didn't speak Mi'kmaq. So people around my age, people maybe, out of 10 friends, maybe only 3 of us were able enough to put a conversation off, right? So knowing already then, the loss of language was quite prevalent in people my age at the time, and recognizing who their families were. Their parents or grandparents went to residential school. So really quick you realize that the effects of residential school based on language loss was already there, right? This is growing up in the 90s. My father was a residential school survivor. Now he was there, he says when he was 3 years old. So he remembers going there at 3 years old, being taken care of by the nuns. So 1949, right up until I think it was about 58, he kind of he left the residential school. So, but at a young age, he was already talking about that he went to residential school, and she started to kind of expose us to some of the things that happened at residential school. Some of the not so good things, but age appropriate stuff that he wouldn't tell us the worst things, but he would tell us some stories and bad things, and to compare to how good we have it. Their trauma, it left a hole, and that hole had to be filled by something so that they could just, be as normal as anybody else could. So I think that culture filled that hole and bridged that gap between their child selves and who they were when they grew up. Well, they filled that hole with ceremony, with powwow singing, powwow dancing, to being around powwows, or fishing, hunting, being on the land, things that they used to do. A lot of these survivors, went on to be linguists in our language, who created materials so that the language is passed on, right? That was a part of their life, their lifelong, I guess, their commitment to our people, right? And commitment to their healing, because that's what healed them. A lot of survivors also filled that hole with drugs and alcohol, right? And that was one way to numb that pain. It's the same, it wasn't healing, but at that moment, there are some survivors who are still going through that. When we talk about intergenerational trauma, I believe that I was lucky. My father broke that cycle when he quit his drinking, he quit his drugs. He made sure that when we were growing up, he'd tell us the bad things about that. My father was one of those people, I think, that as a residential school survivor, not just him, many other residential school survivors, who really brought back those powwows, brought back those traditions of dancing and singing and ceremony. If it wasn't for them taking that plunge into Native spirituality, we wouldn't be here where we are today in our communities. So, I like to credit those residential school survivors, something that was taken away from them when they were children in the schools, and their whole lives growing up, and eventually after they grew up, they went out and they learned their spirituality, the way they wanted to shape it, and how that was going to look like. For me, like I said, in my family, the things that he did, growing up, solidified my foundation and my understanding of my spirituality and how I practice my culture and how I participate in my culture as well. I honor him through that, because really, I think in the end of it, his teachings to us was that to stay true to who we are, and then we continue on being and living in a good way, and to honoring our ancestors, honoring our parents, in the way we live. And the way we live is good, the good red road that we talk about all the time.